Imagine waking up one morning and the sun simply doesn't rise. Not because it's cloudy, not because there's an eclipse, but because the sky itself has turned into a thick, choking veil of volcanic ash that wraps the entire Earth in darkness. Now imagine this lasting not for hours, not for days, but for more than a year. This actually happened in 1815. And till date, it remains the deadliest climate event in recorded human history. The cause was a single mountain. The volcano was Mount Tambora, and what it unleashed was so powerful that NASA scientists still call it the largest volcanic eruption in the last 10,000 years. Tambora stands on the island of Sumbawa in Indonesia. In early April 1815, no one in Europe or America even knew its name. But locals on the island had begun to sense something was wrong. Animals refused to drink from wells. Small tremors shook the ground. The mountain made rumbling sounds that villagers described as the voice of an angry giant. Then, on the evening of April 5th, Tambora exploded. The blast was so loud it was heard over 2,600 kilometers away. People in Sumatra thought they were hearing cannon fire. The British Navy in Java prepared for war. But this was just the beginning. The main explosion happened 5 days later, April 10th, 1815, a date burned into climate history. Just after sunset, Tambora unleashed a detonation so massive that scientists estimate it was 100 times more powerful than Mount St. Helens. The entire top of the mountain was blown off. Ash and pumice shot 43 kilometers into the sky, higher than commercial airplanes fly today. The plume punched through the stratosphere, injecting sulfur dioxide, ash, and aerosols directly into the upper atmosphere, where they could spread around the world. For people on the island, there was no escape. Villages were buried under meters of ash. Boats were lifted from the coast and carried inland by tsunamis. Entire communities vanished in minutes. But Tambora's most devastating effect wasn't the explosion. It was the climate shockwave that followed. Within weeks, the ash was circling the globe. Sunlight was blocked, temperatures dropped, and Earth began to dim. In North America and Europe, the summer of 1816 became known as the year without a summer. Snow fell in June in New England. Lakes froze in Pennsylvania. In Switzerland, the sun didn't appear for weeks. People described the sky as a constant dirty yellow. Crop failure became global. Wheat, rice, corn, all ruined. The Irish potato crop collapsed. India faced monsoon failure that triggered cholera outbreaks, one of the deadliest pandemics of the century, according to the World Health Organization. China recorded massive famine as cold snapped early harvests. Historians estimate that over 100,000 people died directly, but many modern studies put the indirect death toll from famine, disease, and economic collapse at more than 1 million. But let's slow down, because the story gets even stranger. The darkness created a sense of fear unlike anything seen before. Birds fell from the sky. Sunsets turned blood red. Artists in Europe painted eerie orange and purple skies for years afterward. Even the famous painter J.M.W. Turner captured the strange glowing sunsets caused by Tambora's ash cloud. In Switzerland, a young woman named Mary Shelley was trapped indoors because of the cold. She began writing a story to pass the time. That story became Frankenstein. Yes, one of the world's most iconic novels was born from the ash cloud of Tambora. Meanwhile, in America, the failed harvests triggered mass migration. Thousands of families fled New England for the Midwest. Historians believe that the settlement of states like Indiana and Illinois accelerated because of Tambora, all from a single eruption. But what made Tambora so explosively powerful? Scientists explain that Tambora's magma was unusually rich in gas and silica, This created a pressure cooker effect. The mountain had been building pressure for centuries. When the plug finally blew, it released a deadly combination of pyroclastic flows, superheated ash, and sulfur aerosols. NASA studies estimate that Tambora injected around 60 megatons of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. Once there, these particles reflected sunlight back into space. The planet cooled by 0.4 to 0.7 degrees Celsius, enough to disrupt global climate patterns for years. If that number seems small, remember this. The difference between today's climate and the last ice age is only about 5 degrees. A shift of less than 1 degree, happening almost overnight, was catastrophic. But here's the part that keeps modern climate scientists awake at night. We are not immune to another Tambora. In fact, several volcanoes today are capable of a similar eruption. The U.S. Geological Survey warns that Mount Rinjani in Indonesia could produce a Tambora-scale event. Iceland's Barder-Bonga system is another contender. And in the United States, the Yellowstone caldera remains one of the most monitored volcanic systems on Earth. But what would a Tambora-level eruption mean for our world today? Let's imagine that the eruption happens somewhere in the Pacific Ring of Fire. The ash cloud reaches the stratosphere in hours. Satellites go dark. GPS systems fail. Air travel across Asia is grounded instantly. Within days, the ash begins to spread across continents, blocking sunlight. Solar power output collapses by 30 to 60%. Temperatures drop globally. Food production in countries like China, India, Pakistan, and the United States begins to falter within weeks. Global food prices spike. The UN estimates that today's supply chains are so interconnected that even a small climate shock could push 100 to 200 million people into hunger. A Tambora-scale shock? It would be far worse. The World Bank warns that climate-driven crop failures could trigger mass migration. Imagine millions of people moving simultaneously because their regions can no longer grow food. Modern megacities, from Jakarta to Lagos, depend on stable supply chains. A year without a summer in the 21st century could destabilize economies, trigger political conflict, and strain global cooperation. Scientists today study Tambora as a blueprint for global volcanic winter, not because it is the worst eruption possible, but because it is the minimum level capable of collapsing global climate systems. There are larger eruptions in Earth's past. The Toba eruption in Indonesia nearly wiped out early humans around 74,000 years ago. Some estimates suggest only a few thousand humans survived. And that wasn't even the largest eruption Earth has seen. So what does Tambora teach us today? It teaches us that climate disasters don't always come slowly. Sometimes they arrive in a single day. One explosion, one cloud of ash, one shift in sunlight, and the entire world changes. For all our technology, for all our satellites and supercomputers, we remain vulnerable to the raw forces of nature.